So the way to, yes, the way to mitigate this, of course, is through sadhana. That was what we were saying before. Sadhana means practice. It means spiritual practice. If you, I just saw recently the 30-day abs challenge. So you can get really great abs in 30 days if you follow this program, right? So that's what we're doing, just with uplifting the consciousness rather than getting a fit body. Sadhana, it's a spiritual practice, it's a scientific process, and it works on everybody because it's scientific. It's been working for 5,000 years, 10,000 years, 20 million years. I mean, it's eternal. It doesn't matter time, place and circumstances. It works. And what happens is we realize that, no, I was just going to go this way, but over that way is something even better. It's just because we got stuck on the idea that we wanted to go that way. So if we can let go of that, then we can see that actually Krishna is everywhere. So there's a story explaining that, a nice story. Now we were talking about Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, so I thought of this story that Prem Samputa, yeah, it's a story about Radharani, and she's in Yavat. You know where Yavat is? It's in Raj. It's close to Nandagaon. So she's living there. After she's married to Abhimanyu, and Jatila is there, and she's like very, yeah, she's not really crazy about Krishna. So Radharani is being strictly monitored, right? And so then one day when Jatila is not there, they see down in the courtyard that there's this incredible, effulgent woman standing there, an amazingly looking woman, and she's just standing there, and it's kind of weird because they haven't, and they haven't seen her before, and it's weird because she's just standing there. So Radharani sends one of the maids down, and she just asks, "Welcome. Is there anything we can do for you?" And she doesn't say anything. So it gets a little weird. So she walks back and says, "You know, she's not talking. I don't know." So then Radharani becomes a little bit like worried because it seems like she has some kind of depression going on. Or there's something. I mean, there's something wrong. You show up somewhere and you just stand there and refuse to talk. So she goes down there personally and says, "Look, you're among like-minded here, you know, and it seems like you're not, I mean, completely well. I mean, is there some sadness? Maybe if you relieve your heart, maybe you will feel better. Is there something we can do to help you?" And so she starts speaking and says, "Yes, actually, you're right. I mean, I'm extremely disturbed. You see, I am a celestial being. I'm a demigoddess. And you know, I mean, we're floating around up there. We're seeing everything that goes on, all the leelas. We're seeing it. And I can't stand it anymore. It's too much now. You know, I have to express myself. That you know, this Krishna guy. You know, I mean, he's a horrible person. You know, I mean, you know him. You're always there for him, always trying to serve, and he runs off with anybody and does all these things, and he's basically a little criminal kid. You know? So this is where in a modern setting they could have a really good talk about, you know, men are dogs and stuff like that. But just as a side point, is there any animal more loyal than a dog? Right? Men are dogs. They are. But if you treat the dog nicely, it'll be the most loyal companion you can have. Anyway, Radharani says, "No, actually, you got it all wrong. You got it all wrong. Actually, we're together because I'm always thinking of him. He's always thinking of me. So even though we're not, physically in proximity, we're one by mind. So we're never apart. And so this demigoddess says, well, I mean, it sounds nice, but it's a little, it's a little too easy, isn't it? I mean, I know you're always thinking of him, but isn't this just something you're telling yourself? How do you know that he's always thinking of you? He doesn't, it doesn't look like it. So actually I need more than that, this is too easy. So you have to show me somehow. I need proof. So if you can meditate on Krishna and make him appear, then maybe I'll believe you. But otherwise, this is not enough. And so Srimati Radharani says, okay, let's give it a try. And so she starts meditating on Krishna. And in doing so, she closes her eyes, and she's completely absorbed in Krishna. And when she opens her eyes again, there's Krishna. But the celestial being is gone. So she says, Krishna, but where's the demigoddess? And Krishna, he says, well, she had to go. She had somewhere else to be. So the thing is, the point being that Krishna is always there. He may take different forms, and he does so in order to tease Radharani, but her love is so complete that she works with it instead of against it. Instead of having the talk about men being dogs or something, she says, no, actually this is not true. So that complete surrender means that he's always there. Now Krishna reciprocates as we surrender. So that is actually available for us at any moment, which is kind of wild. So all we have to do is follow Radharani. Actually, we are not serving Krishna, we're serving Radharani because she knows how to serve Krishna. We don't know half the time what we're doing. But she always knows how to fit us in because she knows everything about Krishna. So it doesn't matter how weird our shape is or how, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, all these things, that's fine. Because she can always fit us in here or there if we just try. Now, the word surrender, as we surrender, he reciprocates. Surrender in the West usually is kind of like, you get this picture of someone with a gun and you're standing like this, That's not actually the correct understanding of the word. The correct understanding is like taking shelter. It's not like you're on the battlefield and, surrender. It's taking shelter. And it is highlighted because we will surrender. It's not a matter of surrender or not. It's a matter of surrender to what? Because our constitution is servant. We will serve something. Since we're not God, then we will serve something. So there are various options. We can serve Krishna, we can serve demigods, serve Radharani, or we can serve our senses. We can serve our intelligence, we can serve our emotions. There are different levels of consciousness depending on what we serve. But there is no question of not serving. Not serving anything means I'm God, right? At least all of us are right now serving the law of gravity, right? There's nobody floating around. Anyone wants to float around for a while? It doesn't really matter if we want or not. It's just not within our capacity. So we're serving the laws of nature. Now, we have 5 levels of consciousness depending on what we serve, right? So the lowest form of consciousness is the level of the senses, where we're just thinking, can I eat it, can I mate with it, can I kill it, what can I do to enjoy it? So that's animal consciousness. Then you can serve your mind, your emotions, where you have like sense of community, family life, you know, maybe you like a specific football team or something. We call it also extended sense gratification. It's sense gratification just like the previous, but now I'm including other senses also. You know, if you're happy, I'm happy because you're my friend. Now, above that is the level of our intelligence, right? Where we understand that actually there is a certain right way and a certain not so right way of doing things that is universal, right? That if I am regulated, if I wash myself, clean myself, if I speak properly or try to be nice to people, things go better. That's not a matter of am I in the West or in the East or am I in the North or in the South. That's it may take different forms, but there is a universal principle. But the problem here is that, you know, that may all be fine and well, and now we're getting good results because we know how to act and deal, but the same problem still arises that if I put myself in the center, I will be suffering as soon as I don't get my way, and I'm still not God just because I'm nice. So I will still suffer when I lose whatever it is I have. So then above that is the level of detachment, right? Where we figure out, no, actually, I'm not any of these things. Like, I'm not a monk. I'm wearing this and I'm dealing as a monk. But I could walk out that door and get a job as a bus driver tomorrow. I wouldn't be a monk anymore. I'd be the same person. So my material situation is not me. So that's the level of detachment that actually my consciousness is separate from the matter that surrounds the consciousness. I am not my body, even though I have an intimate relationship with it. Okay, so now we are separating ourselves from the pain because we see this as just externals. It's just something that's happening, right? I mean, our lives is almost like a theater play that you can take very seriously or not so seriously. But then what? You know, now you're detached, then what? You're just going to sit in the Himalayas and go Om for the rest of your life? I mean, that's boring. You know, that doesn't solve the problem, because the problem is we want to be happy. And all this did was remove the pain. It didn't actually generate any happiness. So that's why the fifth level, the highest level, is Krishna consciousness. Because that is the scientific way of connecting ourselves with the source of happiness and existence. Now, the source of happiness and existence is Krishna, but the happiness in itself is Radharani. She is the pleasure potency. So everything that Krishna does is for Radharani. So if we just connect ourselves with that, that means we can be eternally happy. So that's basically the meaning of life, is Radharani. Because she knows Krishna. And this is what Mahaprabhu has given us, is actually the possibility of connecting with Radharani and developing pure love and existing on that platform of pure love. And when we reach that platform, it may not happen tomorrow, maybe not even day after, but we can get there. Then again, it flips around. Then again, it's no more about the knowledge, the regulation, the austerities. Then again it becomes about the experience, like we see in this purport, how they are just looking at her feet and following the feet. That is what we call Raganuga Bhakti. It's a very high level of Bhakti, where you're no longer doing because it's rules. Like when I get up in the morning, it's around 3 a.m. and it's not because I'm very excited at that time. You know, it's not like I'm jumping out of bed, yes, I'm going to go see Krishna, it's going to be great. I'm a little more, you know, down to earth, and it's a little slower, but I do it anyway. Why? Because I know intellectually it's good for me, and these are the rules we've set up, and I know it will lead to something good. So I'm still in what we call Vaidhi Bhakti. I'm following the rules because I know it's good for me. You can get attached to following the rules, but you're still following the rules. Now in Raganuga Bhakti, it's not like that. You're just excited, you know. There are no rules because you're just so excited to be part of all of this devotional service and this spiritual consciousness that you cannot get enough. So this is like Rupa Goswami composing poetry for 18 hours straight, completely forgetting to eat and drink and anything. So if you do that, then it's okay that you didn't make it to Mangala Arati, right? Some devotees sometimes, I'm Raganuga. You know, that was one story from a music festival in Scotland, and there was one devotee. They hadn't seen him for a couple of days, and you know what happens at music festivals. So they were kind of asking about him, and this one guy said, yeah, he's Raganuga. You know, he only does devotional service when he feels like it. That's not what we mean by Raganuga. It's not spontaneous in that way. That's not spontaneous, that's sporadic, right? It comes and goes. Spontaneous means it's always there, but the spontaneity is in what form? Either it's poetry, or it's music, or it's meditation, or it's cooking, or it can be anything. And that's when we say, we're devotees, we can do anything, right? Sometimes it's taken that I'm a devotee, I can do anything, so I'll do whatever I please. That's not what it means. I'm a devotee, I can do anything. That means no activity is barred from me. If someone needs to cook, I can cook. If Krishna needs flowers to be arranged, I've never made a garland before, but I can do it because I can do whatever I want. That's what it means. That as soon as everything at your disposal is connected with Krishna, then you can do whatever it is you want. But when it's like, okay, a little bit Krishna here, a little bit Maya here, no. Then we have the rules, right? So that's what we're trying to get to. And that's why we need the mercy of Srimati Radharani. Because she can always fit us in. She knows every little nook and corner of Krishna's mind, and it is always expanding, and there are endless possibilities. So she can always fit us in, right? And that's why that's the highest. If you talk surrender, that's the highest. You can surrender to anything you want, but to think that you will not surrender, that's illusion. We surrender every living moment of our lives. We are surrendering. Just breathing, you know, you breathe in, you breathe out. You didn't make that up. You didn't invent that. You have to do it. So when you surrender to Srimati Radharani, everything else is taken care of. It's kind of neat like that. So that's some of the, unlimited glories of Srimati Radharani. How long do I keep going?
Until 7.
Okay, so I was thinking maybe we could, if anyone has any comments or questions. Yes, absolutely.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that if you cannot follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then just try to work for me. And I'm just wondering, how can a person who doesn't follow the regulative principles, how can he or she stay fixed up in devotional service? How can a person who's not following these rules and regulations but just working for Krishna, how can that person maintain that consciousness?
See, the thing is, if you can't follow the rules and regulations, basically what we've got going on in terms of rules and regulations is of a, many people would say, quite insane level, right? If you say no meat eating, no intoxication, no frivolous sex, and no gambling, many people in Denmark will say, what's left? Right? That's all the fun they have, right? So it's a pretty high standard. Many people cannot just follow that, but you can work for Krishna. That means you can do some work, you get some money, some results, something, and you can offer that to Krishna. Now that offering has value, regardless of what you do after the offering, right? So at any time until we're at this kind of Raganuga level, it's going to be a little bit this way, a little bit that way. So usually I use the example of a child learning how to ride a bicycle. It's kind of like all directions at once, right? So that's how we are with devotional service. But if you take the mother of that child and she's watching the child ride the bike, she's not going to say, "Oh my God, you're horrible at bike riding." You know, that's not her mood. She will be, "Look, you're practically riding a bike." I remember my grandmother, she had this idea when I was 5 that I was going to be on the national Danish soccer team, or football team. She could see it, you know. I'm pretty sure I wasn't that good, you know, but that's the mood of the mother. So that's the mood of Srimati Radharani, right? So if you have an 8-year-old child who's doing her homework, trying to write and stuff like that, mother will be the same, you know. "Wow, you're doing so nicely." And then the 15-year-old is doing the dishes. "How wonderful, you're doing so nice service." The love for them is the same, even though they're at different levels. Now, if the 15-year-old does the trick with the bike, then that becomes a problem. So we have to figure out where is our level. You know, if we, there's, you know, the term sahaja. Sahaja means the easy path. That's literally what it means, the easy path. That's if the 15-year-old is doing the trick with the bicycle and expects the mother to be impressed. If you're just, "No, whatever I do, you know, it's all good." That's not, no, you have to apply yourself as good as you can. But you also have to, just to stay on the bicycle analogy, you also have to be careful not to push yourself too hard, because then you're going to break. I mean, the mind is the mind. We have to work with it. The mind is what connects us to the world. That's where all the senses go in. And the mind is also what sends the signal to my arms doing like this right now, right? So if we don't accept the mind's limitations, then we'll break. So it's like when you're riding a bicycle, you're always adjusting a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And if you're really good, if you're a child, you go a lot this way or that way. But if you're a professional bike rider, you go very little this and that way. But you're never really exactly at the balance, right? So as we are progressing, these ups and downs will become less and less. We will become more and more stable. But until then, it's going to happen. We're going to have good days, good weeks, bad weeks, maybe good years and bad years, you know. And that's what's meant by this. If you can't follow these regulations, I mean, just try and work from it. Just whatever you do, just try and do something from it. And if it's even worse than that, then just cultivate knowledge. Because then you will realize that you need to work for Krishna, right? So it's really nice to see people trying to do something they don't know how to do, right? Because they're trying. That's actually the value. It's the consciousness, it's the devotion to the process. So the fact that we're not always very good at what we're doing in this like spiritual process is not a problem, as long as we're trying. That's where the value is. So, you know, often I'm fortunate, I'm staying in Maya for much of the time, and you have some pretty advanced devotees, and very often you hear that, you know, I mean, if only I could be at their level or something, but you don't have to think like that. You're at your level, and that's perfect, you know. I'm at my level, that's perfect. You know, kid riding a bike outside, their level, it's perfect. There is only devotion. Nothing is working without devotion. The guy is on his way home from work and suddenly he realizes, oh my God, it's our anniversary. He's very devoted to finding a gift for his wife because he knows he has like 30 minutes before she expects him to be back and he hasn't done anything, right? So immediately devotion is there and he can do magnificent things in those 30 minutes because the devotion is there. A child who hasn't studied the whole year for his exam, the exam is tomorrow, he's very devoted to his books that evening, you know, because he has one evening to make up for the whole year. So the devotion is what drives everything, you know. It's just that, as we said before, where are you directing that devotion? Again, the surrender. If you can direct it at Krishna through Radharani, then it's the most perfect, right? Otherwise, little by little, we get there. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I would just thank you for a very nice lecture. And I especially like this point. You mentioned how, like, when problems are thrown at us,
Yes.
then the interesting thing is how we overcome those problems.
Yes.
Because if everything was just easy and straightforward, then there would be no rasa.
Yes.
So that is like gives you like a positive perspective on life.
Yeah.
Because you see, whatever problems they come, that can be like a facility to please Krishna. Like,
exactly. And that's why, you know, in relationships there must always be, it's like energy, it's always ups and downs. So the man is like, see, men like things that are just the same. Things have always been a certain way and we just like it. We have, you know, my favorite shirt, I wear it all the time and it feels uncomfortable when that one day it's in the wash and then as soon as it's out, it goes back on, right? So women are different, they're not like that. So that's sometimes what generates some problems because the man is not, he doesn't understand this, that if it's been a perfect weekend, he just wants to go home and sit in front of the TV and fall asleep and then go to work the next day. But for the woman that's not enough because where's the rasa? So she'll pick a fight going home from that perfect weekend and the man will be thinking like, what did I do? We just had a perfect weekend. But for her it's different because there's rasa, it's a variety of moods. It gets boring if it's just pleasant and nice all the time. The guy doesn't have a problem because he's kind of impersonal. I mean, men are generally, we're generalizing now, men are generally kind of impersonal, women are generally kind of sentimental. So that means the woman is the energy, she moves all the time. As soon as the man tries to pinpoint her, she's somewhere else. So if it just becomes too pleasant all the time, it becomes boring. There's no value, there's no relationship, there's no dynamics, there's no rasa. So then there has to be these problems, they have to be there. So sometimes, you know, like a guy, he will buy a car and then once in a while he'll kick the tires of the car, right? Just to see if the bumper falls off or something. It's, you know, you just kick the tires. So that's what a woman does to the relationship once in a while. She kicks the tires. Just see what happens. If he's still there, then everything is good, we're safe and our relationship is nice and that's the rasa is there. So, because men don't understand this, because they haven't been trained in this, then they freak out and they become emotional, and that's why we have 50% divorce rate in Denmark. So that's because people don't understand rasa. So problems are not actually problems if we see it like that. If we see it as just obstacles to overcome, then they're not problems. They're just problems if we insist that I shouldn't be in this situation. You know? Then it's a problem. I mean, it's easier said than done, of course. I mean, but it's something you can train yourself in seeing the world like that. So that makes everybody's life much, much easier. Does that work? Yeah. Anyone else? Yes?
I'm a little surprised to hear to know that since you are saying that Radha is actually the most supreme power, right? Is it why Radha is not mentioned so clearly in Srimad Bhagavatam?
That's one.
Yeah, but actually we need another person like you to analyze and tell us that this is Radha. Because if we read it, then we don't understand that Radha is mentioned.
Because we have a tendency to always project our own consciousness onto whatever we experience. So we will look at it in a mundane light. So we will see it as mundane lust rather than transcendental love.